You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions. There's the crack of the bat, and we are off for another episode of Detroit, City of Champions. This is episode 30.
Number 30, Jamie.
30. It's 30 a big
3-0,
and we are deep into the Red Wings.
Deep. We are.
Dear.
Yes, we're.
Just get closer. Get right on the mic.
There we go. New studio. We're getting used to the couple of eccentricities.
Yeah, it's because these are really directional. You got to be right on this bad boy. So there you go. So, but yeah, episode 30. We're into the Red Wings.
We're deep. We've come a long way to get finally. We are finally at the moment that I think everybody's been waiting for, which is the 1935 season itself.
Okay,
this is where we're going to embark upon today, and it's we're going to find out the reasons why we spent a lot of prep work getting here.
Yeah,
introducing the history of the NHL.
Oh, the players have been great though. Yes. Just those guys coming up. A boy who couldn't skate.
Yeah, like that. He's like the ultimate Bucko, you're talking Bucko. That's my language. He's my favorite player ever, or at least from this season.
I love Bucko.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he's your classic guy from a movie, and you can see this guy as a main character in a movie, a guy that can barely see. This is why I wrote him into the screenplay.
I was gonna say, if only someone had written a screenplay about this story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If only. So, and I actually in the screenplay, there's a hockey term called a bender.
Okay.
A bender, and I'd always heard that word, but I guess I'd never really thought too deep into what it meant.
I've been on a few benders.
Yeah, myself included. But in the world of hockey, it means somebody that who's basically like their ankles bend as they skate.
Yeah,
like they're so bad at skating, their ankles bend. And so, anyways, in the movie, when you first meet Bucko, because he's a former lacrosse player, and when he first goes out on the ice, they say something about a bender, and he's kind of puzzled. He goes in the movies, anyways. He says, I don't know, what do they mean by calling me a bender? And he goes on the ice, and you see the definition of the word with his his skates are kind of bending inwards, So that's the intro to Bucko I have in the screenplay.
So what is the deal? Who are our key players moving into the 1935 year?
Yeah, so this is like who that's what all the build up that we've had to this. This is like all the intro stuff that we've had leading up to this. The key.
But I forgot. It's been a while.
We're gonna refresh. Trust me, we can refresh.
It's been a week. I don't know.
Yeah. No. So anyway, so the lead dog that we've spent probably the most time thus far talking about is Jack Adams.
Okay.
The lead dog. Yeah. So we talked about how Jack Adams was a Hall of Famer as a player, literally in the Hockey Hall of Fame as a player, and how he took over a Detroit franchise, a Detroit hockey franchise, which is only in their second year. They were at that time the Detroit Cougars.
Yeah.
And the team was in their first year, they were terrible. They were absolutely awful. And then, to make matters worse, their best player and their coach, Art Duncan, had left the team. So they had literally nobody on this team. Wow. And so Jack Adams, we talk about how Jack Adams is the father of the Red Wings because he came in as he was the original guy for this, the OG, as they say. This is the guy that came in there. And he established, the very first thing he did was establish a minor league team called the Detroit Olympics at Olympia Stadium.
Right.
The only minor league team in the entire country that played at the exact same venue as the parent club. And, we speculated how that was the reason why, is so that he could have firsthand, extend his influence on their development of players that would eventually be playing for him.
Okay.
And so, so we talked about how Adams, brought in the Olympics, he created the Olympics. And how Olympia Stadium, in his very first year as the coach and general manager of the Red Wings, that was also the first year of Olympia Stadium in Detroit. It was before their first year, the Detroit team had played in Windsor, and then we kept on moving forward. And also in his first year, he discovered Larry Orey, who was he was one of the key components of this eventual Red Wings team. We talked about James Norris, father and son, James Norris Jr. and Sr. And how James Norris, when they came in in 1933, how the Red Wings team name changed. The Detroit name changed from the Cougars, then it was the Falcons when Norris arrived, and then he personally renamed them the Red Wings based on the Montreal Winged Wheelers, which is a team that he had played for in their youth. in his youth. And so, it was a famous hockey team, in his day in Montreal, which is where he was from. And so, we talked about the evolution of the Red Wings. We talked about how they went to the first Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
We went through all this, and we went through their core players. Jack Adams had developed a core of 5 guys, with Larry Ory, Herbie Lewis, Ebby Goodfellow, Johnny Sorrell, and of course in Doug Young, we call the reluctant star.
Yeah.
And we did an episode on Doug Young, how we spent an entire episode, in fact, talking about how Doug Young, the final sort of piece of that core component, the big problem that Doug Young had was that he himself didn't believe he was a star, because especially when Adams started adding all these different, they went out and spent $50,000 to bring in Sid Howe,
some serious players,
they brought in they started bringing in some serious studs. Marty Berry they bring in, or they trade for their lone all-star Cooney Weiland. And so they have this, there's this galaxy of stars now that we talked about how in 1934, the Tigers had, went all the way to the 7th game of the World Series,
right? And
how the Lions had won their first 10 straight games, in only their first season, they had this incredible year. And here's the Red Wings having an awful season in 1934, and how the idea that the Red Wings recognizing that there was this sports renaissance in Detroit at this exact moment, that if they were not part of it, they would become irrelevant. And so this is 35 became a do or die.
Yeah. Like the repeated failed football teams. If you didn't do it,
exactly. It's a similar situation to the Lions. Yeah, because the NFL had tried to establish a football team in Detroit 3 times prior to 1934 with the arrival of the Lions. They tried to establish it 3 times and failed all 3 times.
Yeah,
and so the Lions were in the same boat. If we do not compete, they were brought in to associate with the Tigers, to win like the Tigers, to be the football team equivalent of the Detroit Tigers, hence the name the Lions. And the Red Wings were in the same boat, which is here they've been around since 1926, and it's do or die. The hockey is just getting going a little bit. They're getting a few fans. A lot of the fans are coming over from Windsor just to watch the Canadian teams and to boo the home teams in Detroit. And so if they're going to switch this script,
they're kind of doing that now too.
Well, sure, yeah, it's history repeats, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so now here's their opportunity to be part of this Detroit Renaissance, and of course we talked about how they acquired Sid Howe, Sid Howe and Scotty Bowman in this big $50,000 acquisition, which was just a monstrous deal at this time, and could not doubt but send a huge message to all the Detroit saying, just like the Tigers have spent $100,000 on Mickey Cochran, we spent $50,000 on some hockey and 2 hockey players, and we are serious, ready to go. And then we left off, and then we talked about how one of the final components in this galaxy of stars that Jack Adams was assembling for this purpose of winning in 1935.
Bucko?
Well, Bucko was one of the final missing pieces, but he was the kind of guy that they didn't even know they had. He was the kind of star that they didn't even know that they had, kind of like Hank Greenberg was in 1934, where nobody knew Hank Greenberg was going to be a star before 1934.
Well, what was that other piece?
Yeah.
What was that other piece?
Before
I interrupted you with Bucko.
Oh, well, so Doug Young was another. They knew Doug Young was a great player. He was a good player at the very least, but he had never put it all together. And we spent an entire episode talking about one of the most fascinating components that in Detroit Red Wing history, which has never been discussed. It's unknown.
Yeah.
And I mean, how can it be known? The whole season's forgotten. But in this particular case, what we have is Ebby Goodfellow is the captain of the team, the most revered Red Wing, one of the best players in the entire NHL, gives up his captaincy to Doug Young to force Doug Young into the spotlight and say, Doug, you are a star, and we think you're such a star. We want you to lead us as the captain of this team.
Wow.
And it forced Doug Young to take that step up into be that leader. And they, by every single account, which we spent a great deal of time in that episode, emphasizing this idea that Doug Young undoubtedly had his greatest season up to that point. And it absolutely, and they actually specifically say in all the articles, they're in 2 or 3 articles that we read the last episode, that making Doug Young the captain specifically, led him to this, to raise his game to an entirely another level. Yeah. And so these are the things that have led up to the 1930. We got a little bit ahead, kind of spoiler alert, telling about Doug Young, how he played in 35.
Sure.
But it was necessary in order to introduce the context for all the things they were doing leading up to this year and why it was such a huge deal that they came out and they won in 1935.
So because with the football at the time, like the Lions, they had won their first 10 games. And then somehow they didn't win in 34.
Yeah.
It's because they lost it was like
the last couple
they lost to.
Yeah.
And so how did it go for the Wings
in 35?
In 35.
Oh, we'll get there. But
okay.
We got to take everything starts with a single step.
Right.
I want to start at the beginning.
All right, let's where we
This
at.
is a tremendous story, and I think it's going to take about 3 episodes to get through the from now until through the playoffs with the Red Wings.
Sure.
But the beginning of the season we're going to look at the first 7 or 8 games for the season.
All right.
And then the next episode we're going to look at sort of the season itself as a whole, and then the final the third episode will be about the playoffs and such. But right now, so like I say, leading into this 35 season, before I brought in a special what do they call it? Show and tell, I guess you could say.
All right. So you got a binder there.
Oh, I had to drag this guy out.
I'm surprised you don't have a little diorama.
Yeah, usually I use my books. I got the quotes already in there, but but what we have right here, this might look a little ungainly, a little.
Is this some of your
well-worn,
research?
This is straight out. Yeah, this is taken out of semi-retirement. Okay. This is out of my research material. Because what I had to do, to understand, I mentioned the Olympics. We mentioned the Olympics in an episode where I mentioned it in the beginning of this episode. Yeah. But the Olympics the Detroit Olympics, their minor league team, is essential to understand the Detroit Red Wings in this year. It's essential. And so, because we talked about the Detroit Olympics at the end of 1934 had won, it was the 34-35 season, the Detroit Olympics had won the IHL championship. And not only had they won the IHL championship, but there was an inner city series where the Olympics played the Red Wings. And keep in mind, this is the Red Wings with all of Jack Adams' star acquisitions.
Right.
And the Olympics beat the Red Wings
oh my God.
in this inner city series prior to the 35 season. And so Adams is going, what do I got to do? Do I just got to literally switch the teams? Your minor leaguers become the major leaguers and vice versa.
Yeah. All right, you guys are all going to play in the afternoon.
So in order, the only thing when you're studying this kind of stuff, it's not as easy as just reading through the newspaper and reading through different books and finding information. Sometimes you got to get into it. You got to be you got to be into the story. So what I did was, every single article that related to the season, okay, not necessarily who the players were or anything like this, all the technicals about all the hype stories for the next games. And for the Red Wings and the Olympics, I cut out every single article for a 2-year span.
Jeez.
Going all the way, pretty much about the last half of the 1934-35 season, and then all the way through the playoffs of 35-36 for the Olympics and the Red Wings. Yeah. And I taped or I glued them into their own pages, and I assembled them into this chronological, basically a book. This is the only primary source, with the exception of maybe Normie Smith's collection, which his daughter Norma has, but she has every single clipping ever for every Red Wings. That's probably a greater primary source for that season, but it's also like an encyclopedia. She's got six or seven huge binders.
Jeez.
In this case, this right here. This is literally a game by game, and you can, and it was indispensable for me because the Red Wings and Olympics would be playing. The games are so, the Olympics are playing today, the Red Wings are playing tomorrow. Sometimes they're playing in the same day in different cities. So there was so interspersed. It was essential in order for me to be able to separate the two teams and to see the flow of players, because that's what you see happening in the season is whenever one guy might not be playing well. Adams was tinkering with this Red Wings team the entire season. If there was a guy going hot in the minors, he'd bring him up and try to get some goals out of him.
Because that's harder to do when they're, now airplanes and things. That was harder to do then for most other teams when they're playing in different cities.
Yeah.
So it's a hell of an advantage.
Yeah. So in order for me to separate the two teams, in order to understand the movement of players between the two clubs,
right?
In order to understand the goal scoring, this is how I found out about how Herbie Lewis. When you're reading this, every single article is Herbie Lewis scores a goal, Herbie Lewis gets an assist. Herbie, scores a goal, gets an assist.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize for Herbie Lewis, like, because you look at his overalls and they're not the great. I mean, they're good. He's got good numbers, but it's when you look at him in the season, you see that like literally every game, it was like 1 goal or 1 assist. He would never have like 2 goals and 3, he would never have these monstrous games. It was always like 1 and 1, and like 1 goal or 1 assist. It was like every single night. It was consistency. And that's when you get that when you can actually read through it like it's a book, you know what I mean? And that's what I said. So I brought this in, and it's a primary source. And so what I did was I marked out a few sort of choice components of the first 8 games, because the first 8 games where we're going to leave off today's episode is like one of the coolest moments of this. And, I mean, there's so many cool moments, but it's a great moment to leave off of at the end of this episode.
Okay.
But I want to get us there by taking us on a tour of some of the choice moments of the first 7 or 8 games of the season.
Will we be there by Christmas?
We'll get there. We'll get there by Christmas. And not only that, but we're going to leave off on an incredible Christmas moment.
I know.
Are you alluding to that? Or
I was alluding to that and teasing you a little bit.
Good.
I was alluding to both.
Well, good. Okay, good. Because I was going to say, because sometimes the most important thing about the hype is to make the listener and the viewer beg for more.
Oh, yeah.
Beg for more, dude.
Oh, yeah.
So okay, but so to get us going here, I want to emphasize this idea how new hockey was in the city, and one of the components is this is at the end of 1934.
Yeah.
This is I'm going to read this real quick, just a couple of the first paragraphs because it's a fairly long article.
Yeah.
But Bob Murphy of the Detroit Times talks about this is the first game he's ever been to, first Detroit hockey game he's ever been to, and then he says he's writing it as a joke to somebody he calls Uncle Ezra. So Murphy writes thrill of first puck game. He says, "Dear Uncle Ezra, well, Uncle, while your wandering nephew is learning things every day, saw my first hockey game last night between New York Rangers and Detroit Red Wings. And I'm telling you, Uncle, you ain't seen nothing until you seen this hockey. It's potatoes and no kidding. It's the potatoes and no kidding," which is a 30 slang, I suppose.
All right.
He says, not since Christmas Eve when Aunt Molly got into your brandy bottle and threw Parson Barlow's calf over our front yard fence have I seen so many things happen so fast. It's the speediest and dashiest game of them all, me thunk. More than that, the game seems to require all the finest attributes of all the other sports. And so it kind of goes on and on.
This is an article?
This is an article. That's the way they roll. Yeah.
And the article was sort of like an address to his uncle, though.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, and that's what I mean. That's one of the things about journalism is that there's the 1930s was like a golden age of journalism. They did, and Bob Murphy didn't write like this all the time. This was just a certain thing where it was, the readers, he's writing a story here, writing a story there, and then this pops up, and he's like, talking like this. So anyway, so Bob Murphy sees his first hockey game ever.
What is it? It's the potatoes with the what?
Yeah, he says it's.
I want to put it on a T-shirt, I think.
Yeah, do it. That's a City of Champions thing. So he goes, you're like, what does that mean? Like, it's a City of Champions.
It's a city.
You got to watch the show. So he says it's the potatoes and no kidding.
It's the potatoes and no kidding.
And no kidding.
All right. I like it. It's the potatoes and no kidding. I'm working that into my daily.
Do it. That's a great. It is a great thing to say. It's a City of Champions thing. So yeah. So Bob Murphy, who's one of the main writers for the Detroit Times, sees his first hockey game at this time. You see, so I just thought that was interesting, just to kind of point that out. And so anyway, here's the next little page I got marked here. So this is a little conversation. So this is Leo McDonald, in Detroit Times, and this is dated October 14th, 1935. They're sort of like getting ready to go for the season, and so he says. So Leo McDonald says a Sunday evening with 2 Gabsters, and the 2 Gabsters are Leo McDonald and Jack Adams. And he's talking to Jack Adams about this upcoming season. And so he says, so he says the Gab. This is the Gab between the two of them. Leo, how's the Red Wings, old kid? Jack, I shot 93 today. Leo, 93? I didn't even know you had that many hockey players to shoot. Jack, don't be smart. I was out playing golf with Star Kicky at Oakland Hills. Leo, you're out playing golf at a time like this when the team reports for practice tomorrow? Supposing Mickey Cochran did that. Jack, don't worry. We got some Tommy Bridges and Goose Goslins. Leo, well, how about that hockey club? And then, so going to have a champion. Jack, we're going to have one. Leo, so Louis Giffel says. Leo, and Jack says, and a champion too. Leo, what makes you think so? Jack, Sid Howe, Marty Berry, Huck Kilrea, and a few others. Leo, pretty cocky, huh? Jack, final sentence, just confidence, son. So Jack's coming out saying, we got a couple of Mickey Cochrans and Goose Goslins. He's comparing
Yeah.
himself to the Tigers, and he's saying, we're going to have a champion this year, too. You see what I'm saying? The hype is building for the season.
Everybody's like, all right, so now what do you got?
Yeah.
What do you got? All right, we had all this good stuff. What do you got?
Yeah. So they're bringing out. So anyways, a key component. So the intercity, this is at this moment, the intercity series happens.
Mhm.
The Red Wings are beaten by the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And so that happens on November 6th, 1935. Ouch. But one of the key components is in I have this page marked, and I'm not going to read a quote off it, but Wally Kilrea, which we talked about, which is the younger brother of Heck Kilrea.
Okay.
So Wally is the captain of the Detroit Olympics, the minor league club that is doing this damage to the Red Wings. So he's their captain, and he dislocates his shoulder in the final game of the intercity series. And so he's out they say he's going to be out for weeks. Like, he dislocates his shoulder. So that's a key thing to understand, because we're going to come back to that here in a second.
All right.
So anyway, so there's so we're moving right along. So the very first game of the season is a 1-1 tie between the Red Wings and the Rangers. 1-1 tie. Keep that in mind for 1 second, until I get to game number 2. So game
Should
number
I bring
2.
that graphic up?
You can if you want, just to give you a little bit of a viewer. Anybody that's watched it, the people that are watching can actually see the graphic. All right. So game number 2, suspense is building. 0-0 tie against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Oh,
it's a goalies duel. But however, the key thing to take away from this game is that Mike Caracas, and this is where we're going to bring a story we mentioned a few shows ago. This is the introduction. This tame game, 0-0 tie against Chicago. It seems tame by the score. This is going to be the opening shots of one of the greatest rivalry dogfights in the history of, sports, or at least in the Red Wings history. Yeah. This season is going to be a bloodbath between these teams. Okay. Like, this is going to be an absolute, this is going to be the absolute, just, a dogfight of dogfights. So anyways, and so what's important to take away from this game is that, in a little bit of context to go back a little bit, Mike Caracas. All right, when James Norris arrives in Detroit, he did so, but he had the Chicago Shamrocks. We talked about how he was about to wage a war with the NHL because he wanted a team in Chicago. Yeah, he wanted his own NHL team in Chicago, where he was prevented from doing so by Frederick McLaughlin, the owner of the Blackhawks.
I'm going to start my own league.
So he's like, I'm going to start my own league and drive the NHL out of business.
Because that's happened.
Exactly, but rather than pick a fight with a billionaire with a grudge, the NHL invited him to wage on-ice war against McLaughlin as the owner and leader of the Detroit, which became the Detroit Red Wings. It was the Falcons when he took it over. So anyways, one of the conditions of James Norris coming to Detroit, he had to disband his hockey league, especially the Chicago Shamrocks. They had to disband that league. And so what he did was he gave Jack Adams first choice of all the players on the Chicago Shamrocks,
except for the ones we bought already.
Well, So Jack Adams, there was 1 or 2 guys that he did take that didn't really last too long. Okay, but one of the guys that he cut was Mike Caracas, the goalie of the Chicago Shamrocks. Okay, why that's important is because Mike Caracas, 2 years later, shows up, or this is the third. This is the third season later. 3 years later, Mike Caracas resurfaces as the goalie of the Chicago Blackhawks. So now this guy that Adams cut, Norris's former goalie with the Shamrocks, is back, but this time he's a rookie in the NHL, and he's the Blackhawks goalie. And an injury to the Blackhawks goalie in the first game of the year leads to Mike Caracas getting his chance to face off as the starting goalie of the Blackhawks against the Red Wings in game 2 of 1935, the game I just described as a 0-0 tie, which I say might sound a little bit boring or whatever, as 0-0 tie.
No.
But this is the moment that Mike Caracas makes his debut, and it's a goalie in him and Normie Smith of the Red Wings, the goalie of the Red Wings. Both of them pitch a shutout against each other's teams. And the next episode, we're going to get into the back and forth between these two goalies, the back and forth between Chicago. Yeah. But this is the opening salvo, and so it's important to kind of point that out. So that's game number 2. All right. Right, game number 3 was, this is a quick one. Game number 3 was so here it is, 2-2 tie. 3 ties in a row to open the season.
Good Lord.
3 ties in a row, 2-2 tie to the New York Rangers. All right, so we got a game 4.
That's not growing excitement. Well,
Yes.
they're probably exciting games.
Well, we'll get to that in here in just one quick second. We'll talk about the excitement level. Okay, so game number 4, 3-1 loss to the New York Americans. So they're not opening up well. Okay, so that's your game 4. So game 5, Red Wings get their first win, which is good, 2-1. Okay, great. So but this is what was key about this, right? So they get their first win in game 5, but on this day, on this day, Wally Kilrea is brought up to the Red Wings. On the day, his injury's healed.
Yeah,
he's back on the ice with the Olympics.
Yeah,
and in his one of his first couple games back with the Olympics, he has a hat trick for the Olympics.
Oh my God!
And for a team that at this moment the newspapers are starting to call the Hitless Wonders because the defense is holding up all right, but they're not scoring any goals.
Yeah.
Wally Kilrea down with the Olympics just has a hat trick in one of his first couple games back as the captain. As the captain of the Olympics, and Adams like, get him up here. He comes up. He doesn't score in this game 5, but they win their first game.
Okay,
and so it sort of sets the stage that Wally, he's
some energy that needed.
Exactly, one of these components that's going to help him. And he's actually pointed out in the very next page here, which is kind of a write up of the previous day's game. They talk specifically about Wally Kilrea's impressive showing and how it was so good, and even just that one game, that it looks like he's going to be there to stay.
Okay,
like he's good for the rest of the season, and indeed he would be there to stay. He would not get sent back down to the Olympics. And his name's going to come up more towards the end of the season, but it's just essential to know that this is when Wally comes up and he's like becomes a fixture. And their first win of the season corresponds with that. So game number 6. 0-0 tie. The Hitless Wonders. Wally helps them win. We think that the momentum is about to shift, but it's a 0-0 tie.
0-0 tie.
You drop right down. So and it's at this moment that
before the days of shootouts.
Yeah, and it's at this moment that the papers are specifically calling them the Hitless Wonders. 0-0 ties. Yeah, tie, loss, tie. They got one win, other ties. Yeah. So now we're moving on to game 7. Red Wings lost to the Montreal Maroons. So this is a horrible start to the season. Tie, loss. One win, tie, loss.
That's not a pretty.
It's ugly.
That's not a pretty start there.
No, it's horrendous. They're losing and tying every game, right? And this is keep in mind, and that's why we talk about the Inner City series. This is on the heels of losing to the Detroit Olympics, who are actually playing great at this moment. I mean, they're like 6-2 or something like this. So
is it too late to swap teams?
Exactly. So that's the crazy thing about this moment where Adams is going, what do I got to do? He's got a galaxy of stars. He brought up the Olympics captain and Wally Kilrea. They won one game, and he's like, now we're going, but no, they weren't. So, anyways, so that's game 7, and so actually, I just look at right here. This is 6-2. The Olympics were at this moment. So anyway, so here we are. So this is a key. This is like a key game right here.
All right.
Game 8. Okay, and so the Red Wings win. Okay, the Red Wings win 2-1. They beat the Boston Bruins, and 2-1 might not sound like that big of a deal. They won one game, right? But here's a couple of key facts to like sort of mine from this game. The first thing is the attendance for the Red Wings at this moment.
Yeah.
The Red Wings drew 4,000 fans into a stadium that seated 14,000. 14,000 fans.
It's a lot of elbow room.
Exactly. So they seat 4,000 fans, okay, at Olympia. And here's the thing. The previous game for the Detroit Olympics, okay, at Olympia Stadium, it's the previous day. It's one day prior, okay?
Oh, no.
The Detroit Olympics drew 10,667 fans. They drew almost 11,000 fans. Their minor league team outdrew them by a magnitude, almost triple digits.
People love those minor league teams.
Yeah, they love winners. they love winners.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They love winning teams. They love they see these teams, and so maybe they were coming there to watch some of the but it's a Canadian team because the Olympics were playing the London Tecumsehs, which is Canadian team. But I mean, that's a huge, 7,000 extra fans show up to watch a minor league game against an NHL game. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing to understand is the Red Wings at this moment this is the comparison. This is the situation. They're drawing less fans than the minor league team, right? So that's why it's important to say what they dig next is so essential, because if they would have continued to lose and going down the crapper, then who's to say that this Red Wings thing would have ever been what it is to this very day?
Sure.
So that's the first thing the first detail to mind. Another cool detail is that the Detroit Lions had just won the Western Division in the NFL for the NFL.
Oh,
so they
okay.
were on their way to the NFL championship. They were not champions at this moment. They were on their way. And so they had just won in this incredible game we talked about in the Lions section, but they had this insane comeback, and they went from last place to the Western Division championship. And this was the day after they'd won. And a massive group of Lions players were at this game. They were among the 4,000, and they came down to the Red Wings locker room. There's a whole description of there talking about how they were in the locker room, congratulating them, talking about this. And so I want to read you a quote with that talks about okay, so this is an article that they wrote after the game, talking about the significance of this one win.
Okay.
Come on, it's only their second win in the entire season. Their eighth game of the year.
Come on, fellas.
Their eighth game of the year. And it might not seem like that big of a deal.
Sure.
It's their second win in 8 games.
Yeah. Their big brothers come in to have a talk with them.
Yeah, but so this is where the Bud Shaver steps in. He is the sports editor of the Detroit Times. And so this is where he says like this. He says, "We went to Olympia last night to conduct a one-man grand jury investigation of the Red Wings. There having been numerous and loud complaints from the citizens that the Wings are suffering from an always the bridesmaid, never a bride complex. It seemed we picked the wrong night. The Wings showed no trace of halitosis or anything else which might disqualify them from success and popularity. On their showing last night, we find them not guilty. They'll do. A 2-1 victory over Boston Bruins may seem like a narrow escape from the tie games, which have been the Wings' chief aim in life up to the present, but Jack Adams' boys were much better than the score indicated. The Wings had so much more speed and class than the Bruins that at times we counted noses to make sure Jack didn't have 12 men on the ice instead of 6. Abby Goodfellow and Johnny Sorrell skated around the Boston defensemen so fast they looked like they were screwed to the ice. Even the great Eddie Shore seemed to be having a bad night. But if he was, he had a lot of company. We prefer to believe the Wings were just that much better."
Wow. Okay.
So they go there and the Wings play. It's not just some ordinary ho-hum. They won 2-1, but the Red Wings are making a move. This team is finally starting to come together and starting to play like a galaxy of stars. You know what I mean? Like this, like they're coming together. So that's what's key is like, it's only their second win, but everybody that was there that night could see that something was now clicking. You see, and
the switch has been flipped.
Yeah, and that the Lions are there. It makes it even kind of cooler that the Lions are there.
Yeah.
And so moving right along. So game 9, 3-2 win.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So now we got the third win of the season.
Now we're back into it.
Yes. In the game 10, they revert back to a tie, 1-1. But here's the thing: 7,000 fans.
Okay,
7,000 fans.
Let's get some butts and some seats.
It's against an American team. Right? It's not against. So it's not it's not against
Canadians coming into. Yeah.
This is a Detroit team versus a New York team. 7,000 fans. So now the fans are starting to wake up a little bit. You see, and so that's why this thing is so great, because you can see all these little nuances.
The progression, right? Yeah.
So, anyways, game number 11.
All right,
Detroit 3-1 win over the Blackhawks. They take down the Blackhawks in Chicago. So anyway, so
on the road.
It's so I just want to read a quick little quote. The title of the article is "Wings Score with Fists and Puck." So I want to read you a little fight quote, right?
Yeah.
So it says, in the final period with only 35 seconds to go, Sid Howe laid a pass on Lewis's stick for the final goal of the game. The fist fight occurred with only 3 minutes left to play. Louis Trudel drew the first Hawk penalty of the game. Howe, Sorrell, and Mud Brunito were the Wings' line and turned everything on. Caracas caught one of the Sid Howe shots between his heels. In an ensuing fracas, the front of the Chicago net was a free-for-all. The free-for-all started. And so every player of both teams got in at least some shadow boxing before Bill Stewart and Odie Cleghorn, the officials, saw fit to interfere. By the time Goodfellow and Locking stepped in for the windup. Immediately after the semifinal, which was a battle royale, Goodfellow had only time to paint up Locking's kisser before the fight was called off. Both players were sent to the penalty box for a major of 5 minutes. So they have this massive fight in Chicago at this season. Right, old time hockey. Yes, exactly. And so I want to go back just a hair, because I want to read another Chicago fight, which is a little bit more detail. Okay, which talks about this is a little bit more detail about just how brutal these fights could be. And this is like backtracking a hair, but it's since we're on the topic of fighting, I want to read one more fight article. I had it earmarked for either the beginning or end or somewhere in between. And this is the somewhere in between.
Okay.
So, all right. So this article actually comes from the Olympics championship game because it's just a great description of the type of fights that happened back then. So it said, so the article is titled, this is again from the O's championship from 34-35. So Ushers battle as O's beat London. So the Ushers are fighting in this. Okay. That's what I love about this article. So, right here it says, a game comparatively tame on the ice was topped off with fistic fireworks in which it took a half dozen ushers and as many police officers to quell one spectator, a Detroiter, incidentally. One usher suffered a blackened eye from the wild swinging of a fellow employee. Another was cut in the forehead, and a woman fainted during the excitement. The impromptu battling took place in the corridor on the McGraw side of the rink just as the game was concluded and started when one of the ushers and the spectator got into an argument over the smoking of a cigarette. Once the game was delayed while attachés cleaned the ice after someone had hurled an empty bottle from the gallery. The flying bottle broke into small bits just after missing one of the players. So
chicken wire.
People throwing bottles on the ice. And we're going to see that peppered in. I wanted to read that because there's several articles as we go forward. And in case I miss one, in the next episode, because there's going to be a lot to cover in the next episode.
Sure.
But I just wanted like this idea, like people threw bottles on the ice. This was something that was not an isolated incident. People threw bottles on the ice. The ice, it looks like glass. So they're skating and fighting and did all this with potentially shards of glass on the ice.
And they didn't have the wonderful Zambonis.
They didn't have a Zamboni. There's no Zamboni. They had brooms.
They're
buckets
of hot water.
Yeah, they're buckets of hot water. And they're like, did you get all the glass? They're like,
probably.
I think so. Yeah, But this is the era we're talking about. People talk about the 30s, and they see a lot of times with the football and hockey, you see these players and they're wearing like leather helmets and they're maybe look a little smaller than guys today. They go, oh, that was the old timey football, a bunch of, like kind of bunch of wimps. That's bunch of wimps. This is an era where there was no law. This is outlaw sports.
This is
man.
Wild West.
That's what I'm trying to say. This is crazy. So, anyways, that is a little bit. I wanted to throw a little color in with this fight because. They talk about the participants in the fight, but they didn't give it too much color in this particular article. But they will. We'll read a couple more in the future here. So, anyways, the Red Wings win against Chicago for their 11th game, and they follow it up with a win in game number 12 against the Toronto 4-2. They're in Toronto. They win 4-2, and so this day. December 15th, and this is sort of the last point of where I want to get to with this thing. We went through 12 games. I thought we were going to do 12 games.
Right.
But this right here, this December 15th, 1935 is the day that the Red Wings beat the Toronto in game number 12 for the 1935 season.
Okay.
What is it? Like their 5th win, I think. Whatever it was. I lost count for a second there. But anyways, this win in particular, this day, anybody that's listening right now, write this date down, okay? Because there's a lot of significant dates in Detroit sports history, but this day in particular is this very specific day is the turning point. It is the crux. It is the hinge upon which the entire 1935 season shifts. Okay, it's that important.
Is it December 15th?
December 15th, 1935. Yes. Did you get it?
I got it up on the graphic.
Okay, great. All right.
I was just guessing.
Yes. So December 15th.
Really good at that.
Because on this day, Detroit Lions win the NFL championship.
Oh, crap. Okay.
Yes.
That's a big day.
I'm not finished yet.
All right.
Okay. On this day, Joe Louis is named the most outstanding athlete. It's the Associated Press most outstanding athlete of the year, which is it's basically the MVP of all sports.
Deservedly so.
Yes, absolutely. And it also this is the award that in 1934 went to Dizzy Dean, who was like literally the fascination of the entire country. I mean, at this time we don't really do this. I don't think there's a couple things like Sports Illustrated Player of the Year, whatever, Athlete of the Year, whatever. But this was a big award. This is especially for a black man out of Black Bottom, Detroit. He's only 19 years old. This is a guy that came out of literally nowhere. Literally on December, barely anybody. A year before, nobody knew who he was.
Right.
In only a single year. So you have the Lions win their championship. Joe Louis, most outstanding athlete of the year, and The Red Wings are now tied for first place in the
Holy
American
smokes.
Division. Yes. And so at this moment, so on December 16th, the very next day, the readers who opened their newspaper articles, they would have, maybe they didn't catch the Red Wings game. Maybe they were not engaged in this particular game.
I'm pulling up the Detroit News right
But
now.
so we have, so this is what we're showing. Yeah. So let's show the cover of the book first. Cause this is the cover of my book. That's why I put it on here.
You're killing me with this.
Well, that's what we put it on here first to show this. I
Just
wanted to
messing-
show how
I'm just messing with it. How critical you thought this was.
The cover of my first book. The middle newspaper that's the newspaper that came out on the 16th of December.
Mhm.
And on that day, you can actually see it. It says right on the cover. That's when you can zoom in if you wanted that next one you were going to show.
Uh-huh.
But you can see it. It says right on the cover, Lions capture title on speed and better judgment. And then you can see right in the very second article, or the very,
It's almost like a second deck.
yes, second deck. Wings continue December drive and gain first place. And then the very bottom, Joe Louis acclaimed outstanding athlete of 1935.
Yeah.
They're all right there. Anybody that opened their newspaper on December 16th, 1935,
15th.
they all knew. Well, no, it's the 16th because it happened on the 15th.
Fair play. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is the 16th paper.
It should be. Yeah.
Do you have this actual paper?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You have this one?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is an important one to have for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This one. Well, this one I actually got. I forgot exactly where I got this particular one. I think I got it was a scan from somebody.
Mhm.
But
you got a copy of this?
But eventually I found an original of this.
Nice,
Yeah. So when I saw the original of this, I got it for like $10 or something.
Holy crap.
That's the advantage of being a Detroit 1935 collector.
Yeah.
Is that everything's dirt cheap. Like nobody, most things it might be old, but people are like, it's an old newspaper. I've just kind of been keeping it to find it a good home. My favorite newspaper, which is the the Champions newspaper, which has like all the champions all over it. That I got one of those. I put in a bid on eBay for that.
Yeah.
It's the only one I've ever seen on eBay. I have 3 of them, and one of them, the one I got, so I have one that's torn in half, but I was able to piece it together. It's the one I travel with and do book talks and shows with it.
Sure.
The second, I have another one that I traded a couple books for to a guy at an art show that's like glued to a wooden board and framed, and that's in my office. So that's like on my wall. But I got a mint condition copy of this newspaper, the one with all the players on it. That's the Champions one. I saw that on eBay, right?
Mhm.
And I got this newspaper. My max bid for this on eBay was $999.99.
You wanted it bad.
You know how much I got it for?
How much you get it for?
Guess.
$9.99.
$10.
$10. You were willing to go $1,000.
I was willing to go $1,000 and I got it for 10.
Wow.
And that $1,000 was everything I had.
Wow.
That was like every dollar. I mean, I was being cute with the 99 cents or whatever. But that was literally all I had. I didn't have I think I had maybe a couple dollars on top.
We're quite as
but
liquid,
I was ready.
Then.
I was going all in because it's the only one I've ever seen like that was in mint condition.
Yeah.
And it was $10. That's what I'm saying. Like that's the advantage of being a City of Champions collector is that like you go out. I mean, a lot of this stuff. I mean, unless it's like a Lions first game program or something, which just has overall collector's value.
Sure.
NFL collector's value, but a lot of this 1935 newspaper stuff now snapping up for pennies on what the dollar of what they should be. So anyways, this you can see on this paper, anybody that's viewing, I apologize for people that can't see it, that are listening to this, but you can see in the newspaper, it's a tremendous photo of Ace Katowski running right up the middle of it's a picturesque NFL picture where he's running up the middle. He's running right towards you. The cameraman is sitting in the end zone, taking a shot of him running right at him. And there's 2 Lions linemen that are just pushing guys aside, open up this massive hole.
Right.
So he's running up the middle for a touchdown. And this was actually the very first touchdown they scored that day. And then it says right on the newspaper, just like we read, Lions capture title on speed and better judgment. Wings continue December drive and gain first place. Joe Louis acclaimed outstanding athlete of 1935. And anybody at home that opened this newspaper and saw this headline, they certainly knew that the Tigers had won the World Series by this point, right? They all knew that. And so they're looking at this. So think about this. Tigers win their World Series. Lions on this day win the NFL championship. And now Joe Louis, of course, who's a sensation of the country, has come out of Detroit with the most incredible story and rise in the world.
Wings move into first place.
Now the Wings are into first place. Now there's a bigger story.
Yeah.
Can the Red Wings do it? It's as clear as day. All the other guys are right there. All that's left over is Red Wings. So from this moment forward, that's when the fans started to ask that question, and that's when the
Could
newspapers,
it be?
especially the Detroit Times, started hyping up the idea of Detroit becoming the city of champions.
Right.
So think about this for a second. For the Red Wings, up until this point, it was like winning in 35 was like kind of a hope, like, oh, we're going to try to do this. You know, they signed these players, but now they're carrying a pretty significant burden because all these other teams have all won. And if they don't win, so now they're like, they're not just hoping to win. There's actually expectations upon them doing it.
The pressure's on.
The pressure is absolutely on. Yeah.
But they got the tools to do it. I mean, they have when they're clicking, they're clicking.
Exactly. Well, they're starting to put it together. There's a reason why they're in first place. They have a squad. They've got a team. They just beat the Blackhawks in this game. And they've just done a round robin of great teams. The Boston Bruins were a fantastic team. Yeah. And so they've already been they've pretty much beaten the Toronto Maple Leafs are a fantastic team, and they beat them. So these fans, which may have never engaged in hockey yet, now all of a sudden the Red Wings they're not playing for some obscure Canadian Cup that nobody what's it called? The Stanley what?
I don't
really know what that is.
It looks like a big ashtray.
Yeah.
What? So you're bringing this in my house?
Yeah.
What is this?
So now they're not playing.
I have no idea what that accent was.
It's like a Bavarian
German.
Like,
all right. Anyway, go
German.
ahead.
My family's I got a lot of German in my family come over here, so I recognize some of those accents. Yeah. So
what I'm doing.
So anyways, so this is what we're dealing with here. So now the Red Wings, so the fans of these Detroiters, the fans of the Tigers, the fans of the Lions, the fans of Joe Louis, boxing fans and this and that, all of a sudden now all these other sports are out of season. They're all done. But now there's a sport. Oh my God, there's another sport we can follow in the dead of winter indoors.
Right.
Go have some drinks. We can go watch some, on ice combat.
I'm feeling surly. I could throw a bottle at those mofos.
I got a good arm, man. I can throw a bottle. You can throw bottles in there. Like all of a sudden the fans started coming up to check this team out.
So
the fans started coming and the crowd started to pile in. And we're going to see.
This is game 12, game 13. What's our attendance?
But here's the thing.
Do we know attendance?
10. Yeah, right here. Okay. Game 13. So game 12 was this on the 15th. That was the day that the championship, the Red Lions won. Yeah. But on game 13 versus the Rangers at Olympia Stadium, the very next day, that was the day, the December 16th, 10,000 fans.
All right.
At
Getting our numbers
Stadium.
up. Now we've matched our minor league team.
Yes.
We got to build from here.
Holds 14,000, 10,000 fans. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
And so the Red Wings beat the Rangers. And now the Red Wings are in sole possession of first place.
Okay.
So now they're not tied for first anymore. They are the first place team.
Nice.
And so now anybody that's, come out to say, hey, let's give this team a try. Yeah. And they come out there and the Red Wings put on a show. They win 4-2. There's goals across the board. Hectoria, Red Kelly, Larry Ori. Check this out. You're going to love this fact. That's why I love this thing, because there's just so much random stuff in here.
Yeah.
Bucko McDonald, first goal of the season.
Bucko.
And second since coming with the Red Wings in 34-35. His first goal of the season is on the game that they move into. I think he only had 2 goals the whole season. So his first goal of the 35 season is on the day that the Red Wings move into sole possession of first place in front of the home crowd, in front of the probably the biggest crowd.
What did he do afterward?
Season.
He went out and ate a steak the size of a cow.
Yeah. He said, after that, so that's what I'm saying. Like on the that's what's like, it's that's why this season's so fascinating. Like I forgot, I didn't even write that in the notes for selecting it. I'm just like, oh, by the way, Bucko's first goal of the game, first goal of the season. So that's what I mean. Like this season, this is where I want to leave off here. But you can see, now the Red Wings, they're not the hitless wonders anymore. No. They're sole possession of first place. They're the representatives of Detroit, who has a potential for a clean sweep of major sport championships in the middle of the Great Depression, where Detroit fans are looking for anything to get excited about, have never been truly excited about hockey.
Sure.
And now this is their moment. All eyes in Detroit are on them. Can they add the final championship trophy to the mantle of the Detroit sports championships? And now this is where the comic comes in. The final image. This is the exclamation point. That's why I brought this in. Look at this. Look at the date. This came out December 31st. This came out December 31st. It's actually 35. This is not 36. I put the wrong date on the bottom.
Okay.
So this came out the end of 35. If anybody's looking at it,
Detroit Times.
Yeah, this came out right after Christmas. So and you can. So what it is, anybody that can't see it. So this was right out of the newspaper. And it says right here, wonder if he found room. It's a picture of Santa Claus, and in the bag says bag of champions, right? And so he's already in the it's a fireplace that he's filling these stockings up, and there's a tiger stocking with a trophy in it.
Yeah.
There's a Lions trophy with a stocking in it.
Nice.
There's a Joe Louis stocking with the boxing gloves,
Nice.
hanging from it, like stuffed with, and there's an empty stocking for the Red Wings, and Santa Claus has got the trophy in his hands.
I wonder if they'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so right here. That's what I love about this cartoon. Besides the fact that it's like the greatest Christmas card ever.
Yeah.
Like my first few years in business, I was giving these away for Christmas.
Oh my God.
I know it's the greatest Christmas card ever, but nobody knows what it was.
Nobody knows what the hell it means.
It sucks about it. I love it one of these years to give these things back away for Christmas gifts and for everybody to know what it means and be like, this is the greatest Christmas card ever. But at the time, I made all these copies. I was so excited about it. We were like, it's Santa. I don't really get it. You're like, no, this is City Champions card. Nobody knew what it was. But you can just see the mentality, what they're thinking right there, because they're like, wonder if Santa will find room to bring us, this, wonder if this last championship will be in Detroit. Wonder if the final championship will be added to the mantle of Detroit sports. So so that's
we gotta hold our breath for a couple more episodes to find out if they do it.
Find out next week, and I'm on the next exciting chapter of Detroit City of Champions podcast.
I want to thank everybody for hanging out and spending time with us. We appreciate it. I Charles, I love the way you tell this story, and I appreciate you.
I love doing it, man.
Sitting down to do this, and if you haven't done so, if you're hanging out with us and you haven't subscribed, go ahead, subscribe. Wherever you're at, be it YouTube or the audio podcast. If you're on YouTube, head over to the audio podcast. Find us wherever. It's on iHeart, it's on Stitcher, it's on Google Music and Google Play and Apple.
And everybody
Music,
would do us a huge favor.
Everywhere.
Huge favor,
Leave
because we got 30 episodes under our belt now. We've been asking people for likes and subscribes and this kind of thing. But if anybody that goes, if you go onto YouTube, if anybody's listening to the show that wants to probably friends of Jamie and I or whatever watch the show.
You can send us money, or
that comes a little bit late. We're gonna get our money, yes, but or likes, because
just a like.
What I found out. I mean, it's just obvious. Everybody knows this, that liking the video helps to spread. Helps the algorithm to spread in that.
Yeah.
But it's really I mean, it's even as small as just hitting that thumb button. It really does help. It helps us grow this show. I mean, it might be something you don't even have to. Comments help, but. Especially if you go over to YouTube specifically, subscribe to the show, like the page, it doesn't take long. And and I tell you right now, if you do that for my show, and anybody that's watched this, if you get a show out there, I promise you I'll do it for your show.
He'll follow your TikTok. He will do a special TikTok dance just for you.
I don't know all that. But,
no, I don't even know what a TikTok is.
You can promise that.
I don't know. I know. It's like you got like a flip phone that's like he's not TikTok. He's not promising me. I'm not doing it TikTok. But I will watch if you have something, a project you like to we appreciate it. Really helps the algorithm. We're trying to grow the show. We're trying to get stuff out. We got Champions Day coming up. We're trying to draw our audience in. Yeah.
And try to get it out, because there's a lot of Detroit sports fans that I think would, it's like that we eventually we want to branch out and just doing Detroit sports history. We want to talk with people that are doing all kinds of different subjects.
Yeah. So we got a couple more episodes to talk about this Wings season, but we're going to jump in the middle of this because we're coming up. You listen to the podcast wherever, whenever, however you find it, but we're coming up on our calendar in real time on April 18th, which is the celebrated Champions Day. Yeah. And we are going to be at the Detroit Historical Museum, recording live at the Detroit Historical Museum, and telling the story of the plaque signed by every governor in the United States and President Roosevelt,
Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They signed this plaque,
and it was lost. It was lost to antiquity.
Story.
So we're gonna share that story. And we're going to be at the Historical Museum for Champions Day. And we're going to make it an annual thing. Just do something special for Champions Day. We're kicking it off this time because there's still limited connectivity. And you are welcome to come to the museum on April 18th.
Oh, really?
It is open.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the museum is open, and people will be there while we're doing the recording.
We're gonna be doing that. There's like some kind of we're gonna be connecting with another podcast group that are doing like a trivia day or a trivia thing. Or
later in the afternoon. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. So follow us on Facebook to find out all the Champions Day events that we have on tap.
It's gonna be a cool day, and then that's gonna be a fun day.
And then if it's past April 18th, you can go back and see the videos of what it was. Yeah,
it's Sunday. It's like it's gonna be like 2:00 that we broadcast. Something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sunday at 2 on the 18th.
There is admission to the museum now. It used to be free. There's an admission now, but if you know Charles or I and you want to go, we got a guest list. So
we can smuggle.
I can put you on the list.
Yeah,
we need roadies. We don't need roadies.
Yeah,
but we got a list, so we can bring a couple people with us.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Reach out if you want to, even if you don't know us and you're listening and you want to come in for free. I'm down with it. Email me.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be like the plaque. If you're anywhere near Detroit, the plaque, and especially you haven't seen the plaque up close.
No, I'm
Wait
just
till
dying.
You see this thing in front of you.
Spoiler
it's the
alert!
Biggest thing.
It's no longer lost to antiquity, apparently.
Yeah, it's no longer lost. But the story of how it was found.
Yeah,
is incredible. I love it. Yeah, and so, but the plaque, when you see it in person, like I've got the pictures of it in the book, but when you see it in front of you and you see how big it is, it's monstrous. It's like this massive mahogany plaque. It was made in Grand Rapids. I'm not going to go out into this thing, into the details of the plaque, but it's like the coolest thing.
Well, that'll be
the coolest
in
thing.
The next episode, so people can tune in for that. So again, thanks for being with us. I almost said Man Cave Happy Hour. It's Detroit City of Champions, Podcast Detroit Studios. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Appreciate it. Charles, thanks.
Always a pleasure, Jamie.
All right. Next time. What do we keep your stick on the ice, right?
We're still in hockey.
Keep your stick on the ice. All right, here we go.